Hey guys, welcome back to the FHS Robotics YouTube channel. And today I'm joined with Vinay, and we're going to be doing a Q&A. So the first question is, what are some tips for a beginner going into robotics?
All right. When I first got into robotics as a beginner, I obviously did not know much. I really didn't really know anything at one point. But what I would do is, I'd take a look at the parts, see how they're joined together. Maybe myself, I would try to like screw them together and stuff. I also watch the instructors or the leaders of our team, people who are really good at building the robots, and I'll just see how they do their stuff. And over time, as I went to more and more meetings, I learned obviously more and more about robotics. So yeah, that's probably the best tips that I could give.
Yeah, I agree with that. Also, like looking at other teams per se and like other videos on YouTube, not per se like copying other designs, but just seeing some like what other people have built and maybe building off of their ideas that could give you like a head start. And
Yeah, I agree. Also, our YouTube channel, it's got pretty good content, so check that out as well.
if you guys want some tips, we have some videos. And all right, next question. Okay, for strictly robotics, do you think I should get a Mac, Windows, or Linux? So it really depends on like what you want to do. I wouldn't say like you should get either one of them. Like you'll be fine with any one of them, honestly, because like there's really no need to get strictly a Mac, strictly a Windows, because also take into consideration like the other stuff you do on your computer, right? Like
Yeah.
I have a Mac and that works fine for the robotics I do because I just use it for programming and CAD modeling. That's what I use my laptop for. And I mean, I have no problems with it.
Yeah, I agree with you, but a couple things to note is that you said for strictly robotics in the question, but now in the future and even present, a lot more robotic softwares and packages will be available on all platforms, not just Windows like historically. So like I believe that Vex has their V5 system can run on a Mac, like you can code it on a Mac, right, Prem?
Previously in Robot C, what I would have to do is I'd have to actually go into boot camp on my Mac, go into
Hmm.
Windows just to run Robot C. But
Yeah.
I've it's compatible with Mac. It makes it a lot easier. So,
Yeah.
like you
I
said,
mean, that's good. So, like, in the future, obviously, it doesn't really matter too much what you get. I think one thing, it's really your personal, like, how much money you're willing to put down for it. Like, obviously, if you're willing to put down like 1,000 to 2,000, I would maybe recommend a Mac because of the durability. Like, Macs can probably last like a decade. But that's just my personal
it
opinion.
really depends
At the
on
end of the day, do your research
yeah.
and then pick whichever one you want.
Hmm. And well, for Linux, I mean, there's not. I don't even know if the Vex V5 stuff can even run on Linux. But
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that either.
Linux, I'll look into that. All right, next question. Let's see. What is the best base to build if you are a beginner? So, I wouldn't really phrase it as if you're a beginner. It really depends on what you want the robot to do, and it depends year to year for the challenge, right? So, like for last year, it was Tower Takeover. I guess you wanted a robot that was pretty stable and like couldn't be pushed around a lot. So I would go for like two Omni wheels and two regular wheels. So you'd be able to turn easier with the Omni wheels, but you'd also not like get pushed around a lot. Um, but yeah, it really depends on what you want the robot to do. I wouldn't say like if you were a beginner, then build this because it depends on like what you need the robot to do. Of course, you have the bases which have like all of the wheels are Omni wheels, and of course though that might vary from like year to year based on what you want the robot to do. So we might actually have a video coming up soon about the different types of bases, but and like what their each of their strengths are, but it really depends on what you want the robot to do.
Yeah, no questions about that. It really 100% depends on what you want the robot to do. I know personally, when I first built the base, it was very, very simple and barely worked. It was like two wheels in the back and one Omni wheel in the front. And I mean, it was okay, but like, you know, the reason I built it was just to sort of understand how, motors are supposed to be put together with the robot itself, and then just trying to get the feel of like how the parts really go together as a beginner.
All right, on to the next question. Let's see, what is your most common?
Oh,
This is a tough one. I'd say the first one would be YouTube because we do post on this channel pretty frequently. But
it's
what do you think?
close.
What do you think are like second and thirds are?
Yeah, I totally agree that it's YouTube. I think Instagram could be number two.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in the future, we might post maybe like some infographics related to robotics. It's a possibility. We aren't really sure yet, but definitely I would say Instagram is second, and then probably Twitter, and then lastly Facebook.
Yeah,
I
we
don't know that many teenagers that use Facebook,
yeah,
so
so we tried using Facebook, but none of us really knew what we were doing. And
yeah. I mean, like we were really targeting our age group because, like, at least in high school robotics, if you're trying to advertise, you want to advertise to high schoolers, and most high schoolers use YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter, so Facebook wasn't really an option. I would say Instagram is probably the most used by high schoolers, though.
like we have a Facebook account, but there's not much information on it at all.
Yeah, so definitely, if I were you, I'd definitely follow our YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram for the most content.
Yeah. Okay, next question. All right. I know that your high school only does Vex and Savage Soccer, but are there any other competitions that you recommend others to participate in? Yeah, there's actually a lot. So I also do FRC, which is part of FIRST, stands for First Robotics Competition. And I did that this year. It was a really fun experience. Actually, we were really excited to go to our second qualifier this year, but then coronavirus happened and that got shut down. So the entire first season actually got canceled because of coronavirus. And we were really hyped and like really excited to go to our competition. But it just one day they just announced that the entire season was shut down, and that was really sad. But yeah, I'd say so for FRC, which is First Robotics Competition, and then there's also a simpler version, which is FTC, which stands for First Tech Challenge, I believe. And that's
Hmm.
like a little bit simpler than FRC, and it's more like kit based, whereas in FRC you're building like a lot of your own parts. So yeah, those are
Yeah, I
two other.
agree. I mean, FRC is definitely the other big one that I would recommend you guys participate in. Also, maybe check out like locally if there's any competitions. Like example, Savage Soccer. It's obviously not as well known as Vex and First, but throughout each state, I'm sure that there's a tons of local competitions that you guys can compete in. So definitely, check out maybe local community colleges to see if there's any events, and maybe register for them and give them a try.
Yeah, so I would say FRC and FTC are two other
Those are
comp
big ones.
can compete in. All right, next question. Let's see. What do you think is the best coding language to learn if you are a beginner in robotics, Java, Python? Well, if you're, it depends on like what program. Well, it depends on like what type of robotics you do. Like here in Vex, we actually use C and C++, but it really depends on what type of robotics you're doing. Like I wouldn't say, like if you were a beginner, again, like do this. I'd say it depends on like the situation you're in. So again, like for V5, it's a type of C++. So that's mainly what the Cortex is written in. But for like FRC that I do, I write in Java because, because that's what like the microcontroller uses.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I agree with you. It really depends on, what your, I guess, cortex slash computer can understand.
yeah,
Um, I mean, like, if I told you to learn one, I would definitely say learn whichever one you want because a lot of times with a lot of these programming languages, if you know one, it's easier to learn the other because programming languages are very, very similar. Like I know in school, I learned Python my sophomore year and Java my junior year. And knowing Python in sophomore year and then trying to transition to Java was like pretty simple because I already knew like all the basics, like the loops, if statements, and all that stuff. So I would definitely learn one because learning the other shouldn't be too hard.
Mm-hmm. And again, like it depends on what program you're trying.
Yeah, that's the big question there.
The thing with the V5s is I think you can also program them in like Java and Python, but they're rarely used. So like I wouldn't learn like Python if you're trying to code a robot because like for FRC, I know use Java, and for Vex it's like C and C++. So you wouldn't really need Python. But again, it just depends on what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, next question. All right,
Ooh.
two go together. So it's basically what are some fields you see robotics being involved with in the future? Wow, this is it's
This
gonna,
is a cool question.
yeah.
Honestly, everything.
Here, I see robotics like I can already see it. Like it's being used in a lot of like healthcare industries.
Yeah.
Like I know I saw something online. I think it was a product called Striker, which is like a robotic stretcher that like automatically folds in. And a lot of first alumni are going into Striker because they have experience, and I know like a lot of healthcare industries are looking into robotics.
Yeah. Healthcare, if there's any field that'd probably be the most impacted by robotics, it's definitely the healthcare system, especially with like coronavirus. I know like whenever I go to like Stop and Shop and stuff, like I know Stop and Shop has this, but there's literally this machine that goes around and checks the temperature of like every person, right? And it like walks by itself. I mean, it doesn't literally have like, legs, I guess, but it has wheels and it just sort of wheels around and then they'll like notice your temperature. So it's pretty cool. I mean, also I know Boston Dynamics basically has like a human, like a robot.
Yeah, Atlas is a big,
Yeah,
but and actually stay tuned. We might have an interview with Boston Dynamics coming up. So stay tuned for that.
yeah, it's a possibility.
Well,
But
but yeah,
yeah,
Dynamics, you said they're creating. They actually have a robot called Atlas that can actually walk by itself.
yeah, that's
Really insane.
literally the same as a human, right? So like if Atlas can do everything a human can do, like physically, I
Almost.
mean,
Oh,
yeah, almost physically. I think it can replace a ton of jobs. Obviously, the one thing Atlas won't be able to do is problem solve, which is probably one of the biggest things about robotics, because it does not have the complex enough sort of brain
yeah.
to
That's
solve problems.
well. Also, it depends. There are some problems that computers just cannot solve. Like,
I don't know. It's kind of interesting. This is I love this question, by the way.
um, I forget the problem name, but I think it's like the inverse problem or something where oh, I forget it. But I know there's a specific problem that a computer cannot solve, and also I think one big one is I think it's like the traveling salesman problem where it's like find the shortest path from point A
Hmm,
to point B.
that's interesting.
Yeah. There,
That's kind of interesting because I mean, I know like our phones, we have like a GPS on it. So like obviously that gives us the fastest route. But I don't know. Obviously artificial intelligence will also be pretty cool to see like how they're integrated with the robots because they have like neural networks which constantly learn. So the more that they're used, the more powerful they'll get. So who knows? Maybe like robots will be powerful enough to solve problems in the future. I mean, this is obviously like 10, 15 years down the line, but that would be pretty cool to see like robots basically doing human stuff in
mm-hmm.
the future. Yeah.
Also see
Go
like
to the next. Yeah.
I also see the automotive industry being
Oh
definitely
yeah, autonomous cars. Yeah.
covered by robots, and just like the manufacturing line, just robots assembling cars.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. When do you think, Prem? I mean, when do you think stage 5 autonomy will, exist, I guess?
Stage five what do you mean by stage five autonomy?
Oh, okay. So right now, I believe Tesla has stage 4. Like, so autonomy, I believe, started out,
Like the
with like cruise control. Then they went to, the rear view camera,
you're saying when
and then,
like actually
uh-huh.
be completely autonomous?
Yeah, completely autonomous. That's stage 5.
Coming probably in the next 10 years, I could see. Definitely.
Yeah. Elon said 2020. So, and then obviously now he postponed it, of course, because Corona.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'd be pretty cool to see, the future with robots. So,
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's go on to the next question. Ooh, what are some of the best
oh,
Massachusetts? I think we were just talking about Boston.
Boston Dynamics. They're definitely like one of them.
They're
They're probably one of the best in the world, honestly.
yeah, like if you guys see their YouTube and the stuff they do, like there's a video of Atlas doing a backflip. Like
Yeah.
that that's just crazy.
Yeah, most humans can't even do that. And two, Atlas probably has, that's crazy.
Crazy, yeah. So Boston Dynamics definitely has. Also,
iRobot, I believe, is pretty good.
iRobot's great. I mean, I think we've all heard of like the Roomba. That's that just goes around your house. Like it's a robot vacuum. So iRobot's also great. But like I know Boston Dynamics also does a lot of like search and rescue kind of like simulations. So they're hoping that the robots can like help go into places where humans can't, or unsafe situations where humans can't.
Yeah. I mean, I think Amazon is also have, I believe Amazon also has like a robotics. They have like I wouldn't say, like, I heard that there's something called Amazon Robotics.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't really know that many robotics companies now. It'll definitely, like, obviously increase in the future after, seeing what Atlas could do. I feel like more people will be inspired to, create stuff like Atlas.
Oh,
But I think Amazon Robotics is probably the next, I
definitely.
guess, big one.
I remember the name of the problem that computers can't solve.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. What is it?
It's called a halting problem. So that's that's something to keep in mind. You know, computers can't solve everything.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, robotics is super, super fun.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So I'd say Boston Dynamics, iRobot, and probably Amazon.
Amazon Robotics. Yeah, but like, in the future, there's definitely gonna be much, much more.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so robotics, what's in the future?
All right. So this isn't okay. This isn't a question, but a suggestion. Maybe reach out to Fox News and talk about how robotics will work virtually this year. So actually, we aren't too sure either how robotics.
Yeah, I mean, we reached out to, I mean, I know we mentioned this earlier, Savage Soccer. We actually reached out to people who coordinate that event and arrange it. And they said that, like, they're not going to have any, like, sort of in-person competition. I mean, obviously. But what they'll do is they'll probably release a competition that you could do on your own. So I don't know. I mean, I think virtual robotics will be very tough because it's hard to, like, build a robot when you're not 6 feet away from each other. It's sort of going to have to be like one person doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting. And about they say try reaching out to Fox News. We were actually thinking like maybe reaching out to a local like newspaper company like Milford Daily News, and maybe they could like interview us.
Yeah, Fox News definitely, it's definitely a great idea, and we'll definitely use your suggestion. We'll
Like
definitely contact them.
even though the pandemic's happening, like we're still trying to like continue robotics and like
Yeah.
videos.
It's tough though. I mean, if you guys have any ideas how we can do virtual robotics, please put them in the comments.
We are starting the semester off online, So I really
Yeah.
don't know how this is gonna.
Yeah, I mean, there's some talk. I mean, like, I know last year when the whole pandemic was at its peak and we had a remote school, we would just have like after school meetings. And but like we wouldn't really strictly work on robotics, right? Like we would just talk about the competition and plan out what to do when we hopefully return back to school
Yeah,
like this year. But with this pandemic, that wasn't an option. So definitely put that in the comments.
yeah, because well, so like I have some of the parts at my house, but I mean, there's not much I can really.
Yeah, it's hard for one person to build like the entire robot. You definitely need a team working on it.
But yeah, maybe we'll have like someone interview us and say how we're coping up with the COVID situation and how we're continuing robotics, even though we can't really build.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yep. All right.
Um,
Let's see. If you want to pursue robotics in the future, what are some colleges to look?
Ooh, this is a good question. Um, I mean, personally, for me, I'm trying to pursue computer engineering in the future. But the problem with like robotics is that robotics doesn't really have like a specific major except in like a few colleges.
Yeah, but
I know locally in Massachusetts, I mean, that's the only research I guess I've done. WPI is a good one. And a lot of polytechnic institutes like RPI is a good one.
mm,
Also RIT is a good one. Prem, do you have any good ones?
robotics I know you can do mechanical engineering as a major and then
Yeah.
robotics as a minor, but I don't know too many colleges that offer like robotics engineering as a major. So I think the best way to do like focus on robotics in college is to go into mechanical engineering and then do a robotics minor.
Yeah, I mean, there's not that many places with an actual robotics major.
Yeah.
I know the three biggest ones in the world right now are WPI, Carnegie Mellon, and I believe UAT in Arizona.
Mm,
But yeah, robotics, it's definitely going to become more popular in the future. But right now, a robotics major, you're kind of limited to the colleges that you have.
yeah. Also, like of course, MIT is a great has a really
Yeah.
robotics program,
But
but
you
that's
don't always have to strictly work on robotics, right? From like you could definitely do like mechanical engineering, like you said.
yeah, and then
Really, like any engineering kind of covers it, right?
mm,
Industrial is also a good one sometimes.
like you
Like
can
there's some aspects.
yeah you could like mechanical engineering you could do and
Yeah, I
uh,
mean, like it doesn't have to be strictly robotics because you're limited to only like what three colleges really.
I
So,
yeah but
but yeah, that's our thoughts.
yeah okay let's
Right.
experience with Vex Robotics gonna be okay
All right, you guys are up for story time. All
okay
right, so I guess I'll start off
start
when I was my freshman year, and then maybe Prem, you could take it over when you were a freshman.
okay
All right, so my freshman year, the competition was, I believe, stacking cones. Yeah, that was the competition. It was like you had to stack a bunch of like yellow cones, and our robot was good, but the problem with our robot was that it was like pretty slow, and the actual stacking wasn't, you know, you couldn't really rely on it. Some it was like a 50-50 shot that it would work. And to like you would see like teams. I mean, this is the first time I went to a Vex competition, and the unfortunate thing about our school is that like we go at the end of the year for our first competition. So
we
like all the robots there are insane, like already.
the thing is we only do one qualifier because we don't unfortunately our school doesn't have the money to fund us with the money we need. So we we only go to one qualifier every year hoping to advance. So
It's hard though, because like it's at the end of the year too. So like already all the teams are OP there.
so hopefully next year we're hoping to raise more money so we can go to at least like 3 or 4 qualifiers.
Yeah. All right. Well, back to the story time. Yeah, so it was about stacking cones, and our robot was just not durable, and like you couldn't rely on the cone stacking portion of it. So ultimately, I mean, we were good enough where we could like pick a team, like we were able to pick our alliance, so we were good enough like that in that sense. But like obviously, I think we got swept our second round, so that was unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, Vex competitions at the end of the year are pretty challenging.
Yeah, especially since we only go to one.
Yeah. Prem, what about your freshman year? Tell us about that.
Um,
Oh yeah, I remember that one. That was a funny one.
we don't. We,
I remember that one.
so
Yeah, we had this pretty cool idea, and then
we don't really talk about
yeah,
what.
what's not? I mean,
So,
okay,
anyways,
well, yeah, we'll give you the gist. We had this idea, and it didn't really work out, basically.
so my
And
it was Vex. Ta-
Tower, no, that was this year, right? Tower Takeover.
what was it? All right. Anyways, we had the discs with red and blue discs, and then we had to shoot the balls. I forget which one.
Oh yeah, yeah, that one, like where you had to like flip the discs.
Yeah, so we unfortunately so through okay, so we only have V4 systems, believe it or not. We haven't had the money recently to buy V5. So we're on a huge disadvantage because half the time our motors just stop working for no reason, and it's really hard to like diagnose what's going on. Like a lot of the time our motors just cut out for no reason, and our parts are just really old and beat up. So we're at a huge disadvantage, especially since we use V4 systems. But back to my story. So we basically built the robot the day before the competition at like I'd say 6 p.m. because our original idea just completely failed and we didn't have enough time to build it. That's another thing too. We also have a very limited amount of time to build our robots. So we built a robot the night before the competition, and of course it was really poor quality, and we ended up just completely failing freshman year. But my sophomore year was a really good success, at least for our club, because we were actually able to go all the way to alliance selection, and then we got knocked out in like in
Yeah, we faced like I think the team that won, so first round. So yeah, that was pretty unfortunate. They were a great team. I mean, they had pretty expensive parts and stuff. I mean, if you have V4 parts, I would definitely like if you have them, I think before you start building, definitely make sure you have like a perfect plan and be ready to spend a ton of time on your robot because I know a lot of times V4 parts aren't, the best because of how outdated they are. So if you have a lot of time and yeah, are willing to put in like a ton of effort, I think you might be able to pull it off.
trying to get V4, I mean V5
But
motor
yeah, definitely
things
if
this year.
if your high school has V4 parts, I would definitely try to get the V5.
I think we're probably the only high school who still uses V4 systems, unfortunately, because we just don't have enough funding. So hopefully this year we're going to try to raise more money. But yeah, definitely my sophomore year was probably one of the best years for our club.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I agree.
Vex. Yeah,
All
and
right, yeah.
still a great.
Next question, right?
It's next question. It's still
Next question.
experience, even though we got knocked out. It was still a good experience.
Yeah, I mean the learning experience is what mattered. We had a good double reverse four bar, so yeah.
Oh, okay. This is a great question. What
Oh,
futuristic impact robotics is? Wait. What are your thoughts of the futuristic impact?
oh, okay. I see what your question's saying. So it's basically like how you think robots will affect sports in the
So,
future.
yeah.
All right. I mean, there's a lot of ways it can expect it in the future. I mean, I know at least in soccer and tennis, they have specific robots that would go and like pick the balls. Especially tennis, because obviously like you'd have like a ball boy randomly in the corner who'd go and get all the balls. Now you'd have like a robot that would do it, which is pretty cool. I mean, I think it's already been there for a little bit now, but it'll probably get better over time.
Mm-hmm.
I think for soccer, they had a robot that would like sort of point a laser, and you'd use that laser to sort of see whether the ball crossed the line or not. So you don't really have to have like a ref sort of deciding whether it crossed or not.
Yeah, also for
Drones, right? Drones are also pretty big.
like taking videos of matches, definitely robotics like
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like if you have like a drone, right? You'd get basically all angles of a certain point.
they
So
are using drones to take videos in some sports.
yeah, no, definitely. But I feel like in the future it'll be a lot
Like,
more reliable and prevalent. Like I know in a football game, right? Like on TV, you could see the drone literally like flying across.
oh yeah.
Same in like basketball and everything. So like
Yeah, and then you wouldn't have to have a cameraman like
yeah, I mean like exactly. You wouldn't have to have a cameraman just like always focused on the camera.
yeah. All right. I think that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I agree too.
Okay, Will Sav oh, Will Savage.
Oh, okay, nice.
Oh, unfortunately, there will not be an in-person Savage Soccer, but there is a possibility that there's going to be something online, but there's no in-person Savage Soccer this year.
Yeah, I mean, what they told me was that like they'll probably give a Savage Soccer competition that we can try out on our own for like our own experience. But obviously, then again, the question comes to whether you actually have the possibility of coming together with the team and building a robot.
It
It's pretty tough. I mean, like if you don't have the parts, like not everyone's gonna have the parts, obviously, and then like you have to be 6 feet with the masks on. So if you're willing to take, I would not recommend taking the risk. Coronavirus is huge.
I
Hopefully there's like an online, maybe like a simulation, I guess, of you like putting the parts together. But
so
yeah,
like I don't know if X is still going to happen because they did release the challenge, right? It's change up, but
yeah. I mean, we'll just have to see the condition. I guess the end of the year.
yeah,
My guess is that they're gonna like basically like postpone it to the following year, sort of what they did with first this year.
but like so many kids don't have access to their parts.
Yeah, I know. Like
It's
it's kind of
it's tough.
tough. I mean, I'm surprised that a lot of teams already have like builds on YouTube.
Yeah, because a lot of teams are like home based.
Oh, so like they probably have like maybe like a family like work on it or something. I mean,
They just have like they just work. They have their I guess lab at home, like
oh
the school. Like a lot of teams are like independent.
yeah, but that's the long answer for whether Savage Soccer will happen this year.
Yeah. So short answer, no. Unfortunately.
Well,
Okay. How many qualifiers does your team attend per year? So we only go to one per year for
hmm
unfortunately, but we're hoping to increase that number in the future.
Yeah, that's a pretty good answer to the question.
Yeah. Okay. What is your favorite type of lift mechanism? I'd say mine
I
is
mean,
one
yeah,
4 bar because I mean it looks really cool and
yeah, I
really
agree.
really practical because it starts off super compact, but it can also reach a really big height.
Yeah, I mean, but like, I mean, yeah, the question is what is our favorite type of lift mechanism? And I mean, I like the double reverse 4 bar, but I'm also a big fan of like the scissor lift. Although even though I probably had like the worst experience with it, I'm a pretty big fan of it.
Wait, what do you
Um,
the worst experience with it?
oh yeah, so I think during Savage Soccer in my freshman year, we had wait, yeah, I think it's my freshman year. No. Wait, Prem, were you there when we got the Play of the Day award at Savage Soccer?
Yeah, I was there.
Okay, yeah, so then that's probably my sophomore year then.
So that was
But
yeah.
yeah, basically we had like a cool scissor lift going, and unfortunately the scissor lift just didn't really work. The Savage Soccer competition that year was called Pizza Palooza, where basically you'd have like this oven and you'd have one of your team members put like a square piece of wood, aka the pizza, onto your robot, and then your robot has to transport it to this like sort of like how do I say it? Like this drawer. Wait, do you know what it looked like? It was like a drawer, right?
Basically like
Like a tray.
it's basically like a shelf, and each
Yeah, shelf. That's a good word.
there's a lot of slots, and you have to put the boxes into the slots.
Yeah. But yeah, so we thought what we would do is we just put the pizza onto the scissor lift, and the scissor lift can sort of just like put it all the way up top because that'll get you the most points. Unfortunately, our scissor lift wasn't really working well because it wouldn't go up. So
So that
yeah, that didn't really work out.
year we should
So
4 bar instead of a scissor lift. We did a bar lift, and that worked. That was one of the
yeah,
best lifts we've ever made. We
yeah,
4 bar lift, and then for Vex we built a double reverse. So
yeah. But yeah, going back off to the scissor lift, I mean, then we had to take off the whole scissor lift, and then we went with a push bot, and then we got to play with the day award, which was pretty cool. But yeah,
mm,
pretty bad experience with the scissor lift, but I like it. I mean, I think it's pretty cool. Just the design of it,
yeah,
but obviously it's specific to the competition.
I think my two favorites are 4 bar and double reverse 4 bar. So
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So that's the answer to that question.
All right. Is there a website where you can get third-party Vex parts for cheaper? Actually, there is. It's called robosource.net. Um, we actually ordered some parts from RoboSource, and I think we got like a lot of screws and bolts for like $70, but it came in like bulk.
All
So
right, yeah. So that's probably the only website you could think of, right?
that's the only other.
Yeah, I think that's the only third party site.
So yeah, robosource.net. It's a good.
Yeah.
Okay, how does robotics impact the school environment?
I mean, that's an interesting question. I mean, like at least the way I interpret it is just like how robotics impacted me in school. I mean, pretty much what I would do is like after school, I'd go to the robotics club and then we would just work on the robots. And obviously, our team would kind of procrastinate a ton. I mean, I think meeting hours were typically like 1 hour, no, technically 2 hours a week, 1 hour on Mondays and Thursdays. And I know sometimes for the competitions, we wouldn't really give ourselves sufficient amount of time.
Yeah,
Like we would try to do too much things at once, right? Like I know Savage Soccer is in November, right? And the competition releases in October. So we'd fully grind on Savage Soccer October, November. But then after November, then we would take like a small break because at least for our team, when the competition comes closer, the meeting times go up, right? Like the final week of the competition,
oh, we were
I'm
meeting.
pretty sure, yeah, we would meet like every day for like 5 hours after school to
Yeah,
work on the robot. And two, it would just always be something that just doesn't work and it just keeps going. Like you sort of had the feeling that it never stopped.
we didn't. Yeah, there's just always something that has to be done.
Like even for Vex this year, like we had to like work on the robot on the bus. Like
Oh yeah, no, we were also working during winter break. We had to take the parts home because we just
yeah,
ourselves enough time at all, and because we're very limited with the time we have, and we're also limited with the space we use.
yeah. I mean,
It's
I would say one recommendation if I had to ever redo the robotics, whatever we did in robotics, I would definitely like plan out what you do before the beginning of the year, because I hated being in that much of like a time crunch. Because like
Yeah,
not only that, but like you'd have like a stress sort of like,
just
dang, will this robot work or not? Like, because like, you obviously want to do well after putting in all that time, right?
you're just always worried that like I'll
Yeah, I mean, like honestly, I probably worry more about robotics in school at some points.
no, honestly, I just focus on one competition so you don't have
Yeah,
that would be my tip is just do one competition.
yeah. I mean, definitely one competition is probably the best. I mean,
Okay.
the best approach is definitely do one competition with multiple qualifiers for that competition. Like example, Vex probably try doing like 2 to 3 qualifiers.
A lot of teams do like more. They do like five.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I mean, like definitely try out a bunch of qualifiers for maybe one competition. So not only do you get like everyone on your team gets driving time and stuff, but like um
You also need practice driving your robot, and we just didn't have any time.
yeah, no, because you'd build a robot literally like on the bus, right? So like it would just be like whoever touched the robot really first would sort of drive, I guess. But I mean, not only that, but like historically, who's a good driver and stuff. But
I wouldn't say that happened because we procrastinated, because we really didn't procrastinate. Like
yeah, we would just have problem after problem, really.
grinding, grinding it out. But again, we started way too late.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, for the Vex one, we started way too late. Like,
Yeah, we
we
had
would begin our robot like early December, and that's the worst part though, because like I know, I think this year, no, not this year. Uh, yeah, actually, I think this year our competition was like in February, right? And we started beginning in December.
oh yeah, we had I think less than like 2 months for
Yeah, like we had like a handful of weeks, and not to mention like
we only do one
we
too.
yeah, we only do like
Only
2 a week. And then like obviously snow days are a thing, which sometimes cancel meetings. Like conditions, obviously, like if the conditions are bad, we have to leave school early.
mm-hmm.
And then like obviously that's the holiday season, so there's like a ton of holidays.
Only meet twice a week, like you said. So we're
Yeah. Yeah, and we didn't really have the availability of the room on other days, so it was kind of tough.
yep. All right. Okay.
Yeah, so that's that.
COVID-19 affecting robotics as a whole. So, okay, this is a good question. So basically, after COVID-19 happened, a lot of robotics programs just shut down completely. Like I know for like I said for FRC, the entire season got shut down. Even though we had built such a good robot, we were really excited to go to the competition. And then like the day after, they announced that the entire season is canceled. And that's never happened before in like first in FRC history. So it was a really tough time. And for Vex, like I know they released uh, the competition for 2020 and 2021, but like we're not able to start building because we don't have access to this school. Like we're going online for school and we just can't meet also to work on stuff.
Yeah. I mean,
It's really
coronavirus really hurt us a ton.
it's really restricting
Because
what we
yeah, because like literally robotics, like it's something you kind of only can do in person, even though you might think like, oh yeah, robotics could totally be done virtually since it's all tech stuff.
no
But yeah, I mean,
yeah
you literally need to be in person to do robotics. I mean, because robotics is a physical thing you have to sort of do. Like example, like in chemistry, when you try to find like chemical, like you're trying to see chemical reactions or do labs, it's kind of tough to do it at home rather than when you have like the lab setting in school, you know? So
we can't do online labs.
yeah, it's tough. I mean,
Absurd.
obviously, like we said before, if you have any ideas on how we can maybe do robotics virtually, please put them in the comments.
Really helpful because right now we're basically not having robotics at all, and it's really restricting what we can do. But of course, we're making
Agree.
those since we have this time for
Making the best of the opportunity.
yeah. So we're trying to like teach, or I guess like reach out to our community. But
Yeah,
yeah, please let us
right.
if we can Okay. Next question. What are the most prevalent household robots right now?
Interesting question. I mean,
Roomba.
Roomba is probably one of the biggest. No, it's probably no, it is the biggest. I mean,
No,
I
like,
mean,
oh,
like most households have a Roomba now. Like before, you'd have like a vacuum cleaner, but now you have a Roomba.
yeah, it just kind of does its own thing.
Does yeah,
You can just leave
you
it.
know,
Don't have to worry about.
yeah, Roomba is big. I think that's pretty much the only like big robot. I mean, I guess if you want to consider cameras as robots, like I know there's some cameras that like if you detect motion, like it'll specifically like go to that direction and like scan that area. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, Roombas is probably like the biggest and only really
I
prevalent one.
yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of something as
I
well,
don't.
but
There's
yeah,
not.
I don't. I think Roomba is probably the only one. But in the future, definitely going to be going up. There's definitely going to be a ton of robots.
But like also, I mean, if you're starting to learn robotics, I know like Lego Mindstorms. A lot of kids have Mindstorms kits in their houses.
Oh yeah, that's a good way to start.
That's just like a robotics kind of kit for children.
Yeah, and also actually learning if you want to learn how to code, I think Scratch could be a good thing to use to learn the fundamentals. Like what is an if statement, what's a loop and stuff.
But the thing is, Scratch also for me it taught me a lot of bad habits in coding.
Yeah, what were they?
Well, like I know transitioning like when I was in like
Yeah,
fourth,
the drag and drop to actually writing out code.
literally like nothing.
Honestly, when I learned coding first, like I actually never used Scratch. I just went straight into the actual like straight up what the line meant.
Like I only use Scratch in like our school like library class. Like we in elementary school we had like library class, but it was actually like
Code.org.
we would do like our teachers would make us do a bunch of like drag and drop coding activities, which I mean they're good to like get the fundamental like concepts out, but for practicality, obviously you don't.
Mhm.
But yeah, Mindstorms you can also code in like Java. So
Yeah.
I'd say yeah.
All right. Final question, right?
I think this is yeah. Okay, so what is the hardest part about robotics? Honestly, the
Hmm.
part is just trying to get all of your
Get
ideas.
your robot to work.
Yeah, honestly, and just getting everything to work like consistently. Consistency is key, and that's one of the hardest things to get down. Like, can your robot work consistently without having problems?
Yeah, that's definitely that's definitely the hardest. I would say probably a close second is making sure that you manage your time well,
Oh,
and
time management is a big one.
also like I know this is like a side note, I guess, specifically on robotics, but also trying to like raise money to get newer parts. That's also pretty hard because especially now with the whole coronavirus thing
Oh,
and
yeah.
how so many companies are in like a debt. So it's that's probably the third if I were to give a list.
Yeah, like also just trying to get sponsorships and money. It's, it's really hard.
Yeah, I know historically like there would be so many robotics teams that would be funded by like a ton of companies, and obviously this year it's gonna all change as all these teams might not even be able to really compete in the competition.
Yeah, that's sad to think about.
It's disappointing, but hey, maybe at the end of the year,
Maybe.
coronavirus might subdue. We might actually have competition, but who knows? Just pray for the best.
Yep.
All right, I think that's it, right?
That's it. So this is the end. I hope we answered all of your questions. And of course, please leave a comment down below if you have any questions or you have any tips or suggestions. And I guess we'll see you next time. Thank you.